Hello everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. You are listening to Be Candid with me, your host Amber. It is currently Friday, which gives me all the good feelings, even though I do have a work event tonight, so it will be a late one. I know we have a 3-day weekend coming because it would have just been the bank holiday by the time that you're listening to this on Tuesday, but I'm very much looking forward to it. It's finally stopped raining in London. I don't know what it's like wherever you are in the world, but London has been pretty miserable for about the last 2 weeks, and yesterday I actually sat out in the sun. First of all, let's just backtrack a little bit. I went for a run. I haven't gone for a run in like over a year, I want to say. I wish I was one of those people that enjoyed running, like I wish I was a runner. So slowly but surely I'm trying to wrap my head around it and like really get into it. I just bought some like new running shorts and stuff to try and like encourage me a little bit so that I have at least the right equipment to go running in. And it was actually really fun because the sun was shining, I had my music in, did get catcalled a few times, which is honestly a bit draining, like a bit of a pain in the butt, but just kept running, you know. I did have to have a break multiple times. My stamina or like endurance is not very high whatsoever, and I did end up lying in the park I was running around, getting a bit of a suntan, you know, just enjoying a little bit of that sunshine. But it's very much in my personality to sunbathe over exercise, so it was quite fitting. But that was the first thing that happened, and I think I can owe that to the sunshine because it was just such lovely weather, so I felt like getting out there. But then I actually took my work laptop into the garden in a bikini, made sure my web camera was not on, but it was just like working away, sat in the sunshine, which was absolutely lovely. Unfortunately today it has kind of clouded over, which I'm very upset about because I put on a really cute like floral summery play suit, which is really sweet, but I'm kind of a bit chilly, not gonna lie, so it probably wasn't the best idea in the world. But this weekend's supposed to be super, super lovely, and I can already feel my mood and my energy and my productivity just like boosting, which I'm so happy about. But that is not what we're here to talk about today. I am not a weatherwoman, which I have to keep reminding myself of because I feel like everyone in England thinks they're a weatherman. But I am here today to talk to you about the secrets of adulting, which sounds very big and glamorous, but is basically just like a few tidbits I've learned along the way. Now, obviously, I am not established in my adulthood yet. I am a 23-year-old woman. I do feel like I can say woman instead of girl now. I think I've got to that point. But 23 years old nonetheless. So I can appreciate I've still got a long way to go. And I'm sure even in like a couple of years' time, if I listen back to this episode, I'll think like, oh my gosh, there are so many things I would say differently, or I don't use that one anymore, or actually I found that not to be true, because you know, you just learn over time. It's one of those life experience things, like you just learn from the experiences you have. But these are just a few things, some like super deep that we're going to chat about, some other like throwaway comments and things that I've just like noticed or learnt along the way, which I wanted to share with you guys because I think the majority of us are like similar age, like 18 to 24, within that bracket somewhere. And if you're not and you're here for a good time, that's okay too. But I'm just saying, like, the most of us are going through similar life stages right now in terms of like university or moving out or trying to find somewhere new to live, or like moving in with friends, or just trying to have a good time and enjoy your early 20s. We're all in it together. So I just wanted to share some of these things that I think hopefully will be pretty useful, but you can give me your honest feedback at the end. So I think we're going to kick it off with a big one, and one that I have recently only wrapped my brain around within like the last couple of months, which is think about who you want to be, like the dream person you want to be, and show up as her, which I need to break down a little bit because that sounds really like simple, but it's really not. So like for me personally, I'm a very like future oriented person and a very like visual person, so I would always imagine what I'd be like in a year's time, or in 5 years' time, or in 10 years' time. And I would always imagine myself, say like in 5 years' time, thinking, oh, I'm like super active, I get up early, I go to bed at a decent time, I don't get stupidly drunk and hungover and waste my weekends, I'm productive, I have all these fun side hustles going on, I craft, like all of these things. But there's nothing stopping me from doing that now. And even if it goes deeper than that, even if you think, oh, hopefully in a couple of years' time, I'll be more tolerant or forgiving or more high energy or more patient, whatever it may be, why can't you do that today? You know, it's really, there's some kind of mental block there, which I've had for a very long time, of just thinking like, oh, well, one day I'll be able to do that. Oh, one day I'll be like this. But why don't I just try and do it now and like build up the practice of trying to be that person? Because let's face it, that person is in me, because I can visualize myself as that person. So there is part of me that knows I'm capable, but for some reason, whether it's laziness or I just can't be bothered for some reason, I'm not willing to put in the effort today to do that, which makes no sense. So I've really been implementing like a good morning routine, which has been really fun. Just one that I think I would imagine myself to have in like 3 years' time. Like, oh, I wish my morning routine looks like that. I'll just do it today. I'll just do it tomorrow. Why not? So like this morning I got up and worked out just because I felt really good and the sun was shining. That has not been my morning routine recently. That was kind of a one-off. But recently I've been getting up and tidying the house. I could do a little bit of the washing up in the morning. I do my skincare. I just bought a gua washer because I was like, 5 years' time Amber would probably use a gua washer, so why don't I use one now? Do you know what I mean? Just like those little things. And it can go so much further than that in terms of like, if you see yourself in a different job, why don't you start doing things today that are going to get you closer to that goal and just show up as the person you want to be? Because I think it's the childhood mentality of like, oh, one day when I'm older, I'll be like this. And it takes a very long time to realise like, oh, hang on, I am older. Do you know what I mean? I think if you look back at your childhood, depending on what kind of kid you were, I guess, I would always say like, oh, I'll go to university and I'll meet this person and I'll be married by this age and I'll have kids by this age and I'll have my own house at this age. Like, we did set ourselves targets based on age, and then obviously once we get to those ages we realise that's probably unrealistic and just isn't how life is measuring up. But it's also important to remember that you are now those ages, like you are of grown up age, which is really bizarre because I definitely don't feel like a grown up at all. But I know by doing things today, like being my desired future self, I guess, today, in 5 years' time, that's going to be even easier because I would have practiced. So that's my first little takeaway. Then my second tip, again, is probably going to need some explaining, but it's just the power of your voice. I think as a kid, and like definitely a student and everything, not necessarily in university, but as like a child, you're told to be quiet quite a lot, depending on how loud you are, I guess. But also you're told, like, when you can speak in terms of, like, in class, you're not supposed to speak until a question's asked, or all of that kind of thing. So you kind of forget how powerful what you say can be. And it can go for, like, a lot of things in terms of, like, what you write on social media could affect someone else's life, but also, like, if you're not happy with something and you want to have a discussion with someone, you also have the power to do that because you have a voice and it's there to be used, and you don't have to be quiet or be polite anymore because you're your own person. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's just me going too deep and just having a bit of like a quarter life crisis, but recently I've just been thinking about it. Like, I am my own person, my voice is my own voice, I can say what I want. Obviously I have to be conscious of how it's going to affect other people, but that all comes with the power of your own voice, which I don't think we ever really get told. I think in university they make a point of it because obviously they encourage you to put your opinion across and your own learnings across, so in that way they are showing you that there's like value in the way you think because you're graded on it. So I think that was like my first introduction of being like, oh, what I have to say or my opinion or my thoughts could be important. And obviously I must think that because I have a freaking podcast, so apparently I think a lot of my voice. But oh god, I only just realised that. Wow, does that make me a bit narcissistic? Maybe. But compare it to your life. Do you find that you have a powerful voice, or have you not yet harnessed the power of your voice? Are you still like taking a step back, quite reserved, which I'm not saying you have to be the loudest person in the room. Obviously, you can use what you have to say in your voice really intentionally and mindfully, which I think is probably better than just being a loudmouth and gabbing it all over the place. But I do think it's important to know that what you have to say is valid. So, just a little reminder for you. Okay, the next thing is one of the less steep options I have on my list, but is something I wish someone would have told me sooner, and it's to do with bills, which is a definite truth of adulthood. As you grow older, as you move out, as you rent or live in student accommodation or whatever it may be, you have bills to pay, and I'm talking council tax, internet, phone bill, water, gas, electric, TV license, like MOT, car insurance. There is a lot that goes into it. There are a lot of bills to pay, and sorry if that's just depressed any of you by mentioning some of those, but maybe it's also reminded some of you that these bills are coming up soon, so you're welcome. But for me, the thing I wish someone had told me, because I kind of knew like you had to pay bills month on month, no one ever told me you can make it automatic by like direct debit. So for years, I want to say, every month I'd be logging on to each of these different portals or whatever, websites, sending them my money, being like, oh gosh, looking at my bill, thinking, oh my gosh, it's so much money, blah, blah, blah. Now, each of my bills is the same every month, I'm pretty sure. Some are down on a meter, I think, but I don't really pay much attention, to be honest, because the last thing I want to spend my days thinking about is how much money I'm paying all these suppliers. Like, I like to live. I do not want to be thinking about that. So if I can set it up automatically on a direct debit, which is so easy to do, you just go on the website, change your payment method to direct debit, and the money just comes out of your account each month. Obviously keep an eye on it, like it should be the same each month or like very similar each month. But it is so nice knowing that I can go through my month and not have to log on to a single website to pay money for a bill. Like, it's all just taken care of. And there are so many little things like that I'm sure you can think of as well, where you do like once a month or once a week, and it is just a part of adulthood, whether it's like, God, I'm not going to be able to think of any other examples now, but like mowing your lawn or like, I don't know, topping up your Oyster card or something like that. I don't even know who uses an Oyster card. That was a very bad example. But it's something along those lines, which just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of energy, a little bit of effort, and is not a high point in your day, like it doesn't make you feel good doing it. Is there a way that you can automate it to make it easier for yourself so you don't have to think about it? Because if there is, you should 100% do it, because it's just one less thing to worry about, one less thing to put you in a bit of a negative headspace, even if it is just for a moment of your day or a moment of your month. Like, eventually, you're an adult for quite a long time, hopefully, if you stick around. So they all add up, like those moments all add up, and it's just one thing that I can relieve off myself to live a better, happier, more enjoyable life by not having to worry about my bills getting paid on time. The next one I have also, I think, touched on very briefly, but is a great shout, and I wish I'd done this sooner, and I'm also not sure why I didn't, but it's to tidy every day. Like, tidy just a bit every day. I learned this around like New Year's, I want to say. I think I got it from Kristen Johns, because I'm pretty sure she tidies for half an hour every day, which, girl, good on you. I do not have the energy for that, nor the mental space to be able to like have the capacity to figure that out. I do about like I want to say like 10 to 15 minutes every day, and it's usually first thing in the morning. Like I said, I just go downstairs, first thing I do the washing up, and I'm there for like 10 minutes. I pick up the lounge and I do all these bits, which honestly is kind of annoying because my desk is upstairs. So in the morning I wake up before Christian, my boyfriend, who's still in bed, which is where my office is, in our bedroom. And I'll go downstairs, I'll pick up the lounge so it's all lovely, put the cushions back, take out the plates from the night before if there are any mugs, like, I don't know, straighten up the table, all of those kind of things, like put the remote somewhere nice, go into the kitchen, do some of the washing up. If I have time, I'll wipe down the surfaces. There was one morning, don't know why, must have had some extra boost of energy somewhere, I flipping got on my hands and knees and was scrubbing the kitchen floor. Anyway, I do all of that in the morning. for like 10-15 minutes, and then by the time Christian's woken up, it's time for me to start work. I go upstairs to the bedroom, which I obviously haven't tidied, and it's a hot mess, which means Christian gets to go down to his lovely clean office, clean kitchen, glorious, and I have to come up to a bit of like a bomb site. But it's fine, it works, and it means that I get to go down in the evenings to a slightly tidier kitchen. And I find by doing like, even if it is 5 minutes, if that's all you have time for, or just like pick up 2 things every time you go into your bedroom or whatever it may be, it just makes it so much more manageable. Because for ages, I don't know if it was just me as a teenager, I freaking hated tidying up, which is still true, but now I have no one else to rely on. Like, the only person who's going to tidy anything is me or Christian. But like, I can't just think, oh well, my nan's coming round later, she'll do it, or oh, my mum will eventually do it, kind of thing, because sometimes I was that spoiled brat. But I have changed. I've turned over a new leaf in adulthood, and I am tidying, and it just makes it so much easier because it means it doesn't all get super bulky, like pile up, and then I have to spend my whole Saturday or my whole Sunday cleaning, because that's not fun, especially when you work like a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Your weekend is like your time off, and I don't want to be spending my time off picking up dirty underwear and stuff. Like, I would rather that just be done in little increments throughout the week, because if you do it often enough that where it becomes like a habit in your morning routine or your evening routine, you kind of get to do it on autopilot, because it's kind of muscle memory at that point. You know, you're just going around tidying your life, which is great, and it doesn't become such a big thing in terms of like mentally. It doesn't feel negative or like, oh god, I'm gonna have to do that later. Like, it's not a weight on my shoulders at all, because I'm doing it whilst I'm listening to a podcast. I'm doing it for 10 minutes, and I know at the end of it I'm gonna have a better day for it. So by doing that every day, it just means, again, there's one less thing to worry about during my week. And obviously we do clean every weekend anyway, in terms of like the bathroom or the hobs or the things that I don't necessarily like clean in the morning and things. And I do actually really love having a deep clean if I know I'm gonna do a deep clean, and I probably do that like once a month, where I just go like really ham and clean everything. So that's always super satisfying when that's done. But I do not want to be doing that every weekend and just living in a pigsty throughout the week, because I'm one of those people that is like, clear space, clear mind, or whatever the saying is. I really find that to be true. So I definitely appreciate a cleaner space now, which my teenage self would never think of me saying, but maybe it's a secret of adulting, who knows. Okay, so I think the next thing I'll touch on is budgeting, which is a huge topic. So I'm not going to go too in depth with it, because I could probably do a whole episode on budgeting, to be honest, especially trying to figure it out along with adulthood. But in terms of like, okay, let's break it down. First step of budgeting, I wish I had known sooner, is to save every month. Now, I will say I was pretty good. I learnt this at like I think I was 18 or maybe late 17s, because that's when my like I had like a lump sum of money that my mum had been putting aside each month. And that's when I got that into my bank account. So I then felt this huge weight of responsibility to really look after that money. And I was like, how can I make sure that I keep that going? And like, that's a great starting point. I really want to be able to sustain that kind of thing. And my mum was like, why don't you just put a bit of money away each month? And to be honest, when I first started doing it, I was working at Sainsbury's, I think, and I was putting in like £100 a month, which obviously was great because my savings built up so quickly. But also, I didn't realise that even if I just put in £10 a month, I'm still adding to it, even though it is like small increments. And I didn't take any money out of that savings, I should also say. I would always take out as much as, no, I would always put in as much as I had taken out for whatever reason, if it was like a holiday or something, and then I'd add like an extra 10, 20 to £100, whatever it may be. But honestly, it's again one of those things that I now have automated, so I don't even think about it. Money just comes out of my account. And it's so nice knowing that I have a little bit of a nest egg for a rainy day, or if I want to go on a holiday spontaneously, or if I want to buy someone a really great gift, like Christian's birthday's coming up in July, and I know I have enough money that I don't have to rely on my wage to cover that and then be like strapped for cash for that month. So I just wish someone had told me that sooner, because I had pocket money for quite a long time. Nothing like crazy, but I think if I had known, oh, maybe put like 10% of that away each month, and then you'll be able to use it for bigger and better things later on. And it doesn't have to be this groundbreaking number of like hundreds and hundreds of pounds. You can do as small as like a £5 if you wanted to. Like, obviously it's going to take longer for you to build up your savings, but for whatever's manageable for you, I do think it's a really good routine to get yourself in. So I think now, if we're being super transparent, I put £150 a month into an investment thing. It's called Vanguard. It's like a life strategy fund, which is an investment, so you have like higher rates on return. We're saying far too many financial words here, but that's a very recent thing I've started. So I put £150 in there, and then I put £300 into a savings account, which obviously is quite a lot of money. It's like £450 a month when you add it all up, but it's perfectly comfortable for me. It's like a good percentage of my salary that I can still live during the month. I have enough money to like buy food and go out with friends and buy some cute clothes if I want to. Now, I will say finding that balance has been a tough journey, which you would have heard about in my relationship with money episode, where I basically went full into detail about the anxiety I used to have with money, and then like going the complete opposite way and just spending all my money. And now I've managed to find like this happy middle ground, but I'm not going to say like sit here and say it came really easily and it was just something I did since I was 17 and you know it's always been fine, because it's not. Money has always been a bit of a, it's always taken up too much headspace than it should have. Like, it's always been something I've been overthinking. So I can happily say at this point, I think I've found that middle ground where I can still live my life, I can still save a bit of money for tomorrow and just cover all my bases, which is really nice. But I wish someone would have told me sooner to like save even just a little bit every month. The next thing, which is a freaking adult truth or adult secret that no one told me about, was all of the hidden costs of being an adult. Like, I think growing up, I knew obviously you had to pay for your house and you had to pay for electricity, internet, water. I knew all of those like basics. Did no one ever told me about council tax. That hit me hard, because council tax is expensive as well. It's like a fair chunk of money. Obviously, depending where you live in the UK, it's going to be higher or lower. But living in London, as you can imagine, council tax is pretty high. And it's one of those things that when I was first looking around houses in like second year of university, because I think first year of university, all my bills and everything were included in my rent price. So I was just paying like one lump sum of money and not really thinking anything of it, which was lovely. And I'm sure some hotels, some apartment blocks and things probably still do that. There probably is the option out there for you to do that, which would probably be very nice. Although you could probably, maybe you could get cheaper deals if you did it individually. Who knows? But no one ever told me about council tax. And so when I was writing to all these houses saying like, oh yeah, I'd really like to look around your house, there's freaking council tax. I was very happy when I found out students do not have to pay council tax, but that was my first kind of slap in the face of, hey, my name's council tax and you're going to have to pay me each month. So now that I'm a full-fledged employed human being, employed adult, I am paying council tax, which is kind of sad, but it's just one of those things that England has that you're going to have to get used to. The same with tax, like your national insurance or whatever it is. No one told me about that. I was like, why is this person stealing all my money? A bit like Rachel in Friends when she says it. That was my experience I had, because when you apply to a job, they obviously give you like the overall salary. They don't necessarily say like, oh, it's this much and this after tax. So I now always have to like work it out if I'm ever applying for a new job, because it is a fair chunk of money, especially depending on how much money you're making. So that was another thing no one told me about. The same with a TV license. I actually don't pay for a TV license because we don't watch TV. We just have like the Amazon Fire Stick plugged into the back, so we just do like Netflix and all that stuff. But no one ever told me that was a thing. Like, this is the thing that always befuddled me about adulthood, is that you just slowly realise all of these things. Like, there's no manual. I wish there was like a A4 piece of paper, like, here's everything you need to know about living on your own or being an adult or whatever. But they were all things that slowly just came out of my bank account, and then I had to be to my parents, hang on, what is this? And they would say, oh, you should probably find a different supplier for that because you could probably get a cheaper deal. And then I'd have to spend time looking at suppliers and then switching my accounts and then setting up new direct debits and all this. And it was just like so much. So definitely make sure you check all the bases when you're looking at new housing or wherever you're going, to check what the hidden costs are, because you know there's always going to be at least one. So as long as you're prepared for it, it's fine. But it's definitely a secret people don't like to share. The next one I'm going to talk about, I've also mentioned very briefly, and I will keep this brief as well because I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but it's investing. Now, I always knew investing was a thing, I think from like teenage years, because I knew my stepdad did some kind of investing with his money, like he was quite sensible with his money. But I did not realise I could do it. I kind of thought you had to have a large mass of money to be able to invest anything, which was so not the case, which I found very interesting. So when I did have a bit of like an extra cushion or a bit of like disposable income, I guess, that I could put aside, what I figured out, like, why would I put it into a bank account where I'm getting like 1% return, where I could put it into a potential like investment that could get me maybe like 8% return, which sounded far, far better. So I actually had like a sit down meeting with my stepdad, which sounds really funny, but we just went through it and just talked about everything, which I was so lucky to have him as a resource, because Googling it is very overwhelming. I did watch a lot of YouTube videos actually, which I'll get into a little bit later on, but it's just like you Google one thing and then you see like 6 different words that you don't understand, so then you end up Googling those, and then it just becomes like this snowball effect of just endless information, which if you don't have like a maths or finance oriented brain, can be really hard to wrap your head around. So I was really lucky that I could just kind of bounce questions off of him, and he gave me all the answers I needed, but I was still very cautious and scared, I guess, to go ahead and invest my money, because there is that chance of losing your money. Obviously, like with any investment, there is the risk of losing some of it. And as you know, if you listen to my relationship with money episode, I don't enjoy losing money. I'm sure there's not a lot of people that enjoy losing money. And yeah, so for whatever reason, I just didn't feel comfortable going ahead with it. I didn't feel confident enough, or like, I don't know, at that time I just couldn't imagine losing that kind of money. So I went away for a couple of years, I want to say, did my own research and everything, and found the Vanguard Life Strategy Fund, which I now have, which, if I'm not recommending it whatsoever, I am not a financial advisor. If you want to have a look into that as an investment opportunity, definitely Google it. I watched so many YouTube videos, including Eleanor Tabor's YouTube video, which was really helpful. It's so nice to hear like a young girl talk about investing and finances who actually knows what she's talking about, because I can just relate a bit better, and she's using words I can kind of wrap my head around or better understand. So that was the way I went about it, which is how I ended up setting up my investment fund. And obviously I do put in £150 a month, which again is quite a large amount. You don't necessarily have to put that much in. But what I didn't realise was, obviously, the earlier you invest and the longer you can have your investment in there, the bigger your returns are going to be, hopefully, if the market stays as pretty as it has been. But the thing, or the bit of, or is it an example? Anecdote? I don't know. The thing I heard, which really made me realise this, was that if I had put £30,000 into a certain fund 30 years ago, today I would be sat here with 300 grand. Excuse me? So I think it's just with like the life strategy funds, obviously, because they're for life strategy, hence the name. So by me knowing that, obviously I'm not as concerned, because I'm not checking it every month, like, oh, what did I do, or do I need to change my investment this week, or do I need to sell or stock shares or anything thing like that is not really like that. It's super passive. So again, it's just like a direct debit, which is so nice because it's another thing I don't have to think about, and I know is just working its magic in the background. Obviously I keep an eye on it in case, like, for whatever reason, like, the market crashes, but I'm praying, fingers crossed, touch wood, that that's not gonna happen. So it just means that by investing early, I have a bit of a better chance at, like, recuperating that money, if not exceeding that money, over time, because I have longer to invest. And I think that goes for retirement funds as well. My mum is always urging me to, like, put a little bit extra into my retirement fund, which, if you live in England, your company or your business you work for should automatically set that up for you. So I do have a retirement fund now, which makes me feel really old because I'm 23 and I have a freaking retirement fund. But my mum said, like, even if I just put in like £20 a month extra, that can go a really, really long way in the long run. So definitely think about investing. If you have a little bit of cash extra that you wouldn't mind popping in an investment somewhere, whether you want to be really on it and keep spreadsheets of the stock market and everything, or whether you want to be like me, have it working passively in the background, working its magic, it's definitely something to consider whilst you're getting into adulthood and you're a young adult. Okay, next tip, which I think I just learned by myself, to be honest. No one necessarily told me to do this, but a while ago, I want to say maybe a year ago, I discovered Google Calendars, and I am a big fan just because it's so easy to use and so easy to colour coordinate, and I am an event planner by day, so I'm a very organised individual. I like calendars, I like writing lists, and it's something that I enjoy doing in my spare time. Sorry if you find that really sad, but it's just a little truth about me. So I think like a year ago I started putting things into my Google Calendar in terms of like uploading YouTube videos or shooting Instagram photos or whatever. And then I started putting things in like end of phone contract or end of car insurance or whatever, to remind myself to look back and see if there's like a cheaper deal or to renew it or whatever. And that has been so helpful, especially with putting in appointments, which I don't know if that's really obvious and everyone does that, but I never put in appointments anywhere. I just kept them, like, I would always get a text reminder for my appointment and I would just keep it in like my messenger. I would never put them, like, write them down anywhere. And I think by writing it down, you build it back into your memory because you're physically like writing it or typing it somewhere, so you're more aware of it. But also you see it on like a weekly basis or whatever, or it prompts you to remind you like the day before or what have you. And as you get further into adulthood, the more I think you have going on in terms of like jobs and friends and hobbies and work commitments and family commitments. So it can be so easy to forget some of those appointments, or those due dates will pass you by and you think like, oh my gosh, I've been driving my car for 2 months and it hasn't been MOT'd. Like, that is not okay. So by having those dates set in a cute colour on a Google Calendar, it's a great way to feel like you're being super productive and you're an efficient adult without actually trying that hard. Do you know what I mean? So I really enjoy that because it's like all the satisfaction with barely any of the work, and I can physically see and feel the benefits from it because I can save money, I can make sure I'm on time for things, I don't have to reschedule appointments, I can make sure like I'm not wasting anyone's time, which is really nice. And in the long run, it just makes me feel a bit better knowing that I've like set myself up for success a little bit. And it's cute colours, which is the main thing, obviously. Okay, the last one is a biggie, but it's one I wanted to end on because I wanted to end on a high. And I think I did mention this in last week's episode about my workout mentality, but my biggest adult secret, which I think definitely as a girl you only realise as you get into adulthood, is that the inside matters more than the outside. And I'm talking in terms of like your body. The inside matters so much more than the outside. And now, for whatever reason, as a teenage girl, you are convinced, and if you weren't, like, well done, you have like far exceeded me and whatever I was up to, because I had no idea, or like I was just in denial, I guess, about this fact as a teenager. But I think because your body goes through so many changes and things as a girl, as a teenager, a lot of people comment on it, so you're constantly getting comments on your physical appearance and your body in terms of like what you're wearing, or whether you've gained weight, or whether you've lost weight, or whether you've got boobs now, or whether you've got hair on your legs or in your armpits, or whether you need to wash your hair, or whatever it may be. Like, there are so many comments on like a daily, weekly basis from so many people, whether it's a stranger in a petrol station, whether it's your grandma, whether it's your aunt that you haven't seen in 2 months and she thinks you look different now, whether it's your little sister who's just far too honest, whatever it may be. Someone is always commenting on something, and I think especially now it's very much exaggerated by social media, because we have even more strangers' opinions of what we look like or what we're wearing, because obviously from an Instagram post, they don't really know anything about your insides. You're just showing them the outsides of like what you look like, what your hair looks like, what makeup you've got on. So it can be really easy to put this huge emphasis on the outside, what you look like, your appearance, which honestly doesn't mean shit, which I'm so happy that I have learnt about recently, or like figured out, or had that epiphany, because it really doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, whether I have brown hair, whether I have blonde hair, whether I have big boobs, whether I have skinny legs, whether I have chunky thighs, it really does not matter. At the end of the day, what matters is what kind of person I am, how I treat others, how I treat myself, how I speak to others, how I act in my day-to-day, whether I care for the environment, whether I'm respectful of others, how I talk to my parents. All of that matters so much more than what I look like. And when I realised this, I can't tell you the amount of relief it gave me, or the weight that I felt was lifted off my shoulders, because I just felt like this pressure I had constantly put on myself to look a certain way, or be thinner, or be slimmer, or have shinier hair, or bigger lips, whatever it may be, just evaporated. Because at the end of the day, your body is just, as much as you obviously have to look after it, it is just a shell for your being, and your being is so much more valuable. You can do so much more with like your brain and your words and your heart and your soul and all of that, compared to what you can do with your body. Like, you can have the most stunning body, but if you don't have anything on the inside positive to drive that, or to do with that, or to say, or to share with the world, what is the damn point? There isn't a point. That is my point, that there is no point. Like, I'm sure you can be sat there thinking that you're gorgeous. Don't get me wrong, I still think I'm pretty, and I'm so happy that I can say that about myself, that I'm confident in my body, and I love who I am, and I love my body. But I think a part of the reason why I can say that is because I know what other people think of it doesn't matter, because I am so much more than my skin and my hair and my face, you know? And I just don't know why. I'm sure there were some girls out there who knew that from an earlier age than I did, or who had kind of clocked that sooner. But I just wish someone would have told me that. I don't necessarily think I would have believed them, because I do think it's something that you have to accept internally. It's like, I don't know, because when you're hearing it from so many different places, that this is how you should look, or this is how you should be, or that your appearance matters so that they can sell you more makeup and clothes and all the rest of it. If you're hearing that from so many places, hearing one person say, it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, it matters what kind of person you are on the inside, I probably wouldn't have believed them. I would have been like, yeah, okay, whatever, X, Y, Z, and 100 other people are telling me otherwise, so I'm going to listen to them. But it was just one of those things that I had to realise for myself, and it did take me a bit longer than I would have liked, to be honest, because I think I could have been living a far happier existence with the knowledge that my inside matters more than the outside of me. But now, knowing it and hopefully sharing it with other people, I am so happy to have this knowledge and to be able to share it with you, because it's so damn true. And I know you're all lovely people, because you're sat here with me just hanging out and have the time and energy to put into some, like, a community like this one. And I really value you all. Like, I can say that hand on heart, like 100%. But yeah, I guess it's just one of those things that you kind of have to realise for yourself. But hopefully hearing it from me has encouraged you maybe a little bit to think about that a bit deeper, if you haven't already realised it, which if you have, I'm so freaking happy for you. But yeah, it just makes it way more exciting to know that, sure, I get to work out and like make sure I'm taking care of my body, but also expanding on whatever's inside, like my intelligence, or reading more books, or learning about more cultures and everything like that, is going to make me a far greater person than like losing a couple of pounds. So I find that so much more exciting, and it makes me super excited to like see what else happens throughout life. Like, I'm only going to learn that through having new experiences and things, and I think it's really going to round me out as a person. And then I think that's just what makes life so exciting, is just all the experiences that you don't necessarily know you're going to have yet, and the effects of those experiences, but the hope that they'll make you into like a bigger and better person than you were a year ago or even yesterday. But yeah, we are leaving it on a very deep note. We had a little bit of a deep chat there, but this was really fun. I really enjoyed this episode. I did not know it was going to go on for this long. I was kind of nervous because I only had like a few bullet points of just things that I really wanted to chat about, but I guess I had a lot to say, a lot to ramble about, so I'm glad that you were here with me and allowed me to do that with you. But I hope you've had a really fun time, or at least as good of a time as I've had. I'm going to wrap up this episode now. Thank you so much for listening every week. It's insane that you guys keep coming back, but I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. If you did want to get involved with any like behind the scenes, or you wanted to request an episode, whatever it may be, go ahead and head over to our Instagram, which is at To Be Candid Podcast, where you can DM me, comment, ask for a request, whatever it may be. Do it all over there. It's like a central hub, and I'm really trying to make it into like a fun kind of visual mood board for all things to do with this podcast. So hopefully you will enjoy the aesthetic that I've got going over there, because I freaking love it. But I will be back next Tuesday with a brand new episode, so I hope to speak to you soon. Bye.